Today it's Halloween. We'll be talking about the Avenger of Blood. Deep Dives, episode 48.
Josh, I gotta say, I didn't expect that.
I could tell.
You did? Did you know that, Chris? I didn't know that. I guess you and Chris figured that out whenever I went to the restroom. I guess that was the weirdest thing, I think.
Well, you made the mistake of sitting me down at the board today, so I get to press the buttons.
I think you should have been at the board a long time ago.
But I mean, it is Halloween today.
Yes,
and, we're recording regardless.
Yeah,
I thought
Halloween.
It'd be funny. I really, really want to do this sometime, and I hesitate even mentioning it. But on some Halloween, come here dressed as one of the other podcast hosts or something, you know. Like, I think my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want to say this, but I've already started. I think my favorite though would be coming dressed as Pastor Jeffrey. Have the facial hair, the wig, lower my seat down a little bit.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Sweater vest.
Yeah, sweater vest. Talk about Alabama.
You could do that.
Characteristic laugh.
I think you might be able to get away with that. There's probably a few people that get away with that. You would be one of them. You're his engineer, so maybe you could get away. I don't know. But anyway, it is it's Halloween. It's the 31st, and we don't make a big deal of that. That around here. We don't shy
you
away
did come
from
dressed up as a worship leader.
That's
with
right.
With the Marcus Point
That's
worship
right.
hat.
Our worship leader Jeremy Daly gave me this hat, which I appreciate. I love it. It's something that I like to wear. It fits my big head nicely. So anyway, I'm wearing that.
So I don't really do Halloween, but what do you do instead? Or do you do anything instead? You just treat it like a day?
For the last 25 years, I've gone over to, well, that's not true. For the last 7 years, I've gone over to my wife's house. It still sounds funny to say that.
Well, because for those who don't know, it's because she's taking care of her mother.
Yes.
Yeah, and so she needs full-time care.
Right. And we're only 3 miles apart, so we see each other all the time. So I go over there, shut down our house, and I go over there, and I give people candy. The last thing I want is for somebody to come to that house and see that there's 2 females living there. So whenever somebody comes to the door, I want them to see me.
Yeah.
And I may or may not be armed and be printing.
Right.
I'm just saying, man, that it's such a great time. Listen,
you just want to send a message that you're friendly, but not if they're there to case the joint.
Yeah, I'm friendly, and if there's adults there, I'm making eye contact with them, and I'm making sure that I know who they are.
Don't come back after Halloween.
Yeah, you're welcome for the next 30 seconds.
Right.
And by the way, come visit us at Marcus Point sometime. It may be a mixed message, but it's a realistic these days, this day and age, way of greeting people that you don't know at your house.
Yeah.
I don't open the door for people I don't know. I just simply, I don't see it. There's no reason to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, if it's important, you leave some at the door or whatever.
I'll tell you this. I really enjoy clearance Halloween candy the day after.
Oh, and it's like 3 for $1.
Yes.
And sometimes big old bags.
Yeah, because you really can't use that, because it's all Halloween themed and everything.
Right.
Do you ever, just turn all the lights off, make it like no one's home, just like watch a movie or something?
Yeah. Well, at our house, this year is the first year that directly across the street from Donna and my house, where I live, directly across the street to the right, it's like it's Christmas for them. They have things at their house. There's a little manhole drainage in front of the house. They have skeletons coming out of that manhole. They've lit up the manhole. There's a 13-foot monster in the front that whenever somebody walks by, it starts talking, and everything from right to left on both of these houses is decorated with something.
Right.
Something Halloween. So, and they both have kids, so they're really, really into it.
Yeah.
I will be interested to see what happens during Christmas. You know what I mean? Just to see what they do. I don't know.
So I usually find that, like, I think the two largest marketable holidays of the year are Christmas and Halloween, right? And I think even Halloween may have like surpassed Christmas in a lot of ways. My favorite holiday of the year is Thanksgiving, the one right in between the two. And I think part of the reason is because it's like the antithesis of those two. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Christmas,
sure,
for other reasons, namely being Jesus. But but Thanksgiving is kind of like a thumb your nose at.
It's not commercial. There's nothing commercial about Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because
right?
it's all about being thankful about what you have, and how do you market that in a way that makes people buy stuff?
Yeah,
it's. I mean, don't get me wrong, they try.
Yes, sure.
You know, turkey decorations and all that stuff, but yeah, I mean, Thanksgiving is just like the one holiday of the year where you're not expected to play the game of exchanging gift cards or traveling to to visit family or whatever. It's just like you stay at home, you make a really good meal, and you just hang out.
Yeah,
and it's the best day.
It is. I agree with that. I love Thanksgiving as well.
And I love our food.
Well, I mean, you got a wife that cooks. I guess you cook too, right? And
all of us do.
All three of you cook,
and it's a family wide endeavor. Like my brother-in-law, we built a smoker in our backyard, and so we smoke the turkey.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Deb and Melanie and I will make a lot of desserts. We'll make a lot of side dishes, and we're all just doing everything.
Do y'all just eat all day, or is it just start?
Pretty much, yeah. And I don't know which I like better, the turkey itself or the turkey sandwiches we make later. Oh man, this one year Debbie made. I know we're on Halloween, but I'm already hungry now. Debbie made, and by the way, sorry for my voice. I don't know. I might be coming down with something.
I think you are coming down with something.
I mean, I feel fine, but my voice and head is a little bit congested.
You sound worse than you did when you first came in, John.
Oh, okay. Cool. So it's a downward trend. Yeah. But anyway, every now and then Deb will make this like a homemade sourdough bread or whatever that's like has like cranberries and walnuts and stuff in it. And man, you put that on turkey or put turkey on that, make it say, my goodness, it's delicious. But regardless, she always makes some sort of homemade bread, and the turkey sandwiches after, it's almost like it's impossible to eat right afterwards, but you really still want to. And so, like, even though you're not quite empty yet, you're like, I really want one of those sandwiches. And so you go back and eat a sandwich.
Boy, what a recipe to gain weight, man.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's just all hope is lost.
No kidding.
But if you just accept that and come to peace with it, it's such a happy time.
Be at one with that.
Yes.
Josh, be at one. I like Easter too. I know Easter is also commercialized, but between the big deal that we make of Easter here at Marcus Point and have a Easter sunrise service down at the stadium, then come back here to the church and have a couple of services. I love Easter.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a time of rebirth also, because this is time of year. Things are getting warmer, and it's just it's perhaps my favorite time of year. But anyway, so we're here. We're going to kind of maybe do a short one today. I've got a 10 o'clock appointment, which is unusual.
Oh, is that you have your appointment is at 10 o'clock? You have to leave at 10 o'clock?
Well, I got to leave it. I've got to look for Craig at 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's and he's going to be somewhere on campus.
Okay. It's a meeting here.
Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
here,
so it's not a.
All right. I thought I was going to have to like shave down.
No.
Okay.
No, you don't.
Well, so since we do, have at least a little bit of time.
Yeah.
We were posed with a question, usually in the small talk portion of this, as we get gradually fade into deeper stuff, we've been doing questions about getting to know us better.
Yes.
And so one of the questions that came up was, what's your favorite movie? Or I guess we should say, do you have a favorite movie?
Right.
And if you do, what is it? And why? Why is that your favorite movie?
Wow. So you're asking me right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can answer first if you want to. Usually you answer first.
Yeah.
But we could, since we're in different seats, I can answer it first.
Go ahead and answer first.
Okay.
I think you have an answer. I actually don't have an answer. So.
Well, I don't really have an answer either, but I'm going to attempt one because I've been asked that question a lot, and I never have an answer like what one movie could be considered my favorite. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I have a favorite movie, but I have several that would be in the running for it.
Okay.
And I think they all sort of gravitate around a similar style. And so what I'm thinking of is could be either the movie itself or the trilogy that's a part of Back to the Future. I've always loved Back to the Future.
Okay.
I have always gravitated towards movies that do one of two things, and it usually revolves around the topic of time.
Okay.
I love movies that are time travel type movies, but ones that are done well. Like, so here's the reason I like Back to the Future a lot. The premise of it is really sort of comical, and there's a lot of plot holes to it and stuff like that, which I get.
Sure.
Yeah,
but you got to give it
a lot.
That.
A lot of paradoxes, paradoxes.
Paradoxical.
Yeah, a multiple version of paradox, or plural version of paradox, whatever that is.
Yes.
But a lot of those get introduced, which it's fine. It's fun to analyze all that stuff. Yeah. But what really interesting to me about those movies is, and I'll give you an example. Hopefully everyone who's listening has seen this movie. Movie opens up, Marty McFly and Doc Brown are in the parking lot of Twin Pines Mall. And Doc Brown is talking about how before it was a mall, it was just an open space. It was owned by, I forget the name of the guy, but he wanted to make a Christmas tree farm out of it. And I think it was a Christmas tree farm, but he wanted to grow trees there. And he had 2 trees that he was planning on using as the starter stock to breed or to like selectively pollinate or whatever, the rest of them. And Marty goes back in time, and when the DeLorean flashes between 1985 and 1955, he crashes into one of 2 trees. And supposedly these are the 2 trees that the original owner of that property wanted to use as his starting stock. Well, later on at the end of the movie, when Marty McFly comes back and sees himself in the DeLorean traveling back through time, and he runs up to Doc Brown to try to save his life, he runs past the sign of what used to be Twin Pines Mall, and it was now Lone Pine Mall.
Lone Pine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
all right.
that kind of detail, I love that. And Back to the Future is full of those little things. Like if you're paying attention, you'll see that the people who made Back to the Future thought of these things and thought about the ripple effects of what Marty's actions were in 1955 and how they would have manifested themselves in 1985.
Okay.
And that's just really fun for me. I love that stuff. And it kind of goes back to my interest, like, in Bible stuff, how I'm obsessed with genealogies and how these little bitty things in the past have effects that you can track and see how they manifest themselves in the future.
Right.
And that, I don't know, that part of my brain, those types of movies are really cool. Or when like there's, a seemingly trivial set of circumstances in the past combined together into something huge in the present and the future. Those types of storylines have always gotten me. So that's my answer. Back to the Future.
It also lends itself to watching it many times.
Yes.
Right. Just putting it on the background, in the background, and just putting it on, and just playing it and maybe not even paying attention to it.
Yep.
Watching 15 minutes of it or whatever. It's a certain amount of, for me, that type of thing is a certain amount of comfort, of homeness, if you will.
Yeah. And it's funny too. I mean, you have the theme song of it, "Power of Love" by Huey Lewis and the News, and then you have Huey Lewis in the movie criticizing his own song when Marty tries to play it.
Stuff like that is
it's funny.
It is funny. That's funny. Gosh, Josh, I don't know, man. The things that come up in my mind are several movies. American Graffiti. For some reason, I liked American Graffiti. Got all the cars in the 50s and all that was fun. Out of Africa. I loved Out of Africa. I love Meryl Streep and Robert Redford, I think. No, yes. Yeah, Meryl Streep, Robert Redford. And I loved the lions and he was a photographer, I believe. Always loved that. In Africa, all the cinematography and how I think he was buried on top of where just all this stuff. I've only seen that movie once, and it was a long, long time ago, but it left a lasting impression. On the other hand, I start thinking about movies like Tommy Boy, just nonsensical.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just love stuff like that. Don and we can be in different rooms, and I'll say something like, "Richard, what did you do?" And she'll start laughing because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. When what's his name messed up the car door, and he put it back on, and then Richard came out and opened it, and it fell off, and his buddy was acting like he messed. "Richard, what did you do?" It's just stupid stuff like that. I enjoy. It's an escape. You know what I mean? Instead of, I like to learn, but I like to escape too. So, so movies like that whole genre. Tommy Boy, When Harry Met Sally. I love the rom-coms type of thing. And I know I just lost a man card point.
I wasn't going to say anything,
but I like the actors. In those movies, I have to like the actors too. I think whenever I'm watching movies, I'm watching more of the acting than the movie itself. Although, When Harry Met Sally, You've Got Mail. There's another one I'm forgetting, but Sleepless in Seattle. Mm-hmm. They all have common themes. You know what I mean, with the actors and actresses in them. So I love old movies like that. New movies. Yeah, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, new movies haven't piqued my interest much at all.
I don't know anything about new movies. If I watched an award show right now, I would not know who these people are.
Yeah,
who the movies are. Honestly, I went by driving by just from going somewhere else to drive by a movie theater, and I honestly think, are they still open?
Right.
And I'm glad to see that they are, but and Don and I used to love going to the movies. Mm-hmm. We'd go to the movies on the weekend. We would look at the paper. That's how old this was. We really would look at the paper, see what's playing.
Yep.
We'd choose one of three, maybe, and I would follow her in with my head down and my eyes as closed as they can be and still navigate where we're going and not knowing what movie we were going to see until it started.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd want to be surprised that way because I'm fine. She's more particular than I am about everything, and I and instead of us not making a decision and going, I really don't care. So you choose and just surprise me.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so we used to love doing that, but even before COVID, we stopped going to the movies.
Yeah.
After it turned $25 a ticket. It's not that much, I guess. But.
Well, this past weekend, my wife and daughter were out of town, and so I was at home by myself. And I thought, I'm gonna sit down, fold some laundry. I'm just gonna put a movie on.
Yeah.
So I pulled up Netflix and looked through all the new releases and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I started 2 movies and ended up not lasting more than like 10 minutes into them because they didn't even hold my interest.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, production quality, yeah, great, but
sure,
I don't know.
That's a given these days.
Yeah.
That's a given these days.
But like storyline and being able to capture my interest,
Right.
modern movies don't do that as much as they used to.
I'd like to.
Maybe it's because I've changed or because they've changed or a little both. But
Maybe
yeah,
a little bit of both. I've been. We talked about music last week, and it started me thinking about it again, and it makes me wonder: are we missing some music that's out there that we just don't know about? Probably the same thing with movies. There's probably some movies and some actors and actresses right now that we just haven't been exposed to because we don't look into that kind of media anymore.
I think it's probably more true with music than it is with movies.
Yes.
Because to make a movie is a tremendous financial and logistical endeavor.
Right.
But
right.
to make new music, it isn't really that.
Not anymore. It can
Yeah.
be very inexpensive. You can produce your own stuff.
And so I
for
think
sure.
there's a much larger library of music than there is movies.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is why I love, nowadays how music is made available to us in different ways than it used to. Because used to you'd have to go and buy a record or buy a cassette or buy
Yeah.
a CD,
Which was
and that
fun.
that was fun, and it was an album, and you might like 2 or 3 songs on an album, and the other ones didn't really care for,
Right,
or were
right.
different too.
Yeah.
But now it's like the entire musical history of humanity is available to us in an app, and
Yep.
you can search by genre. You can have it suggest things by clicking on songs you like, and it suggests things in similar styles or whatever.
Right. Or
And I've-
lyrics,
Yeah,
even.
or lyrics. I found a tremendous amount of music that I absolutely love that I would not have found otherwise.
Yeah.
And artists that now I seek them out specifically.
One of the ways, speaking of that, this morning, as a matter of fact, I usually put on a couple of TV shows on my computer while I'm feeding the cats and getting things going. I have tinnitus, so if something's not going on, I tend to concentrate on the tinnitus.
Yeah.
So that's actually a doctor's recommendation, is to have something going on in the background.
Yeah.
If it's a fan or whatever, just have something going on. Have some kind of white noise or whatever, dark noise. So I put on, if I have something on the computer, I can listen to it and kind of keep up with a show that I'm watching without watching it. So I was doing that this morning. I heard on the exit of the show, I heard a song, and it was on Prime. So this is a whole new way of finding music, man. You look at the X-ray of it, and it shows, at least on Prime, many times it shows the artist of the music.
Right.
And man, within 30 seconds, I had downloaded his album. Now think about that as an access to music. You're just listening to, and then you look at 30 seconds. I've got his whole album at my access anytime I want to listen to it. And I turned it on. I turned off the show and I started listening. I was like, man, this is good. Somebody I can't even call his name right now. Somebody I've never heard of, but it was a mixture of acoustic, some folk type of music, but you can tell that it's more modern, and that's what I like. You know what I mean? So I thank God. I said, thank you for bringing this, this music, because music gives me chill bumps to think about it. And I looked down the list of the songs, and one of them said, one of them was Jesus. And I haven't heard that yet. And when I saw it, I started listening to his other lyrics, and how you kind of start thinking, I wonder if he's a believer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Start looking him up.
Yep. Start looking him up and so I just discovered that a couple hours ago. Discovered him a couple hours. I'll bring his name next time we're here. But we have access. There's no excuse these days.
Right.
Right. There's no excuse. And one of the things that Don and I pay for a month, one of the many things that all of us pay for a month, is access to unlimited music.
Yeah. Same.
To me, that is that's an expense that I'm not willing to give up unless I absolutely have to. Hear a song, got it, just like that.
Yeah.
My goodness, you're walking through Walmart. If you have Shazam, you can. What's this song? And you can have.
Right.
It's crazy, right? So anyway, it's the. We talked about movies also. Grease. I loved Grease. I think we mentioned that the other day in
Yeah.
the songs that we were talking about because I love the soundtrack also. So anyway, there you go.
So it seems like your movie preferences and my movie preferences are incompatible.
I can watch anything, but you know.
Well, yeah, I can too, but like, do you? I don't know.
I enjoyed
enjoy
Star
it?
Wars, and I enjoyed anything like if I go watching stuff like that, I'll enjoy it. I won't
Right.
not enjoy it, but it wouldn't be my first choice.
Same, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I can watch a rom-com and I can enjoy it, but they're usually not my first
Right,
choice.
exactly. So, yeah.
Well, now, Grease, I don't think I would enjoy it.
If you don't like musicals, and I don't normally, I'm not prone to like musicals, but
Yeah,
You know,
there are
again-
some musicals that I've liked, like Sound of Music's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think I appreciate Sound of Music because of the historical
yes,
qualities of it.
right,
And I've always liked anything with Julie Andrews. Anyway.
yeah, there you go.
Same with Mary Poppins, but
right.
usually musicals like Newsies couldn't take it.
What couldn't you take?
Newsies,
Newsies? I don't know what that is.
it's like I think it's a Disney one.
Oh yeah, okay. Newsies.
Grease couldn't do it. Footloose couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. Forget it. Out of there.
I don't know.
Anyway, what is that? Forgiven, not Forgiven. What is it? The movie that's you can get it on any. You can get the app, and it's on every smart TV about Jesus's life.
Oh, what'd you say? Chosen.
Chosen. Yes, thank
There
you,
go.
Chris. Chosen. I enjoyed watching.
I haven't seen any of those yet.
I enjoy watching it because it showed what may have happened in between accounts in the Bible. You know, it shows Jesus camping out and children finding him in his campsite, and they would come back and visit him during the day, and then go back home. Biblically, I'm just saying it was entertaining.
Yeah.
It was entertaining seeing Jesus interact with children because there's not a lot of that in the
Right.
Bible, you know. And it was nice seeing how. And you got to think. There's no reason to think that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
You know, it's possible that you just have to go into it
Yeah. It's
thinking
compatible
in
with
those-
the narrative
it's
that we have.
compatible, yes, with his
Yeah.
personality, with the narrative. It absolutely is. Now, I don't know anything about the production of that. It's a big, huge production, man. That's for sure. I don't know anything about the beliefs of the people who produced that. I've watched maybe one or two episodes.
Yeah.
Haven't seen anything that's been inconsistent with what I know. So anyway, that's all.
Okay.
That's all movies.
Well, shoot. Let's go into what we're going to talk about today.
What are we going to talk about today, Josh?
Well, we're going to be in Romans chapter 12
Roman.
because there's an interesting statement in here that I think plays well into the Halloween idea, just
Okay.
because it sounds kind of dramatic or whatever.
Okay.
So, Romans chapter 12 starts out, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
We often look at heroes of the faith, whether they're from the past, whether they're people that are currently in our lives. We might look at pastors and think, man, hero of the faith, dedicated his life
Yeah.
to full-time Christian ministry, or a missionary that's gone to some place we think is tremendously inconvenient for the type of lives we want to live.
Right.
Missionary to Africa or something like that. We think, man, hero of the faith, and the way this is really convicting to me is because the Bible looks at that and says that it's reasonable. It's like we should all be striving for the level of dedication that we exemplify or that we look up to in others, right?
Yeah.
By the mercies of God, present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Well, Romans 12 doesn't stop there. It starts it continues along that idea and gives like the characteristics of someone who has presented his body a living sacrifice. It says, "Don't be conformed to the world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." And then, actually, verse 3 through 11, Pastor talked about this past Sunday. "I say through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith. For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office, so we, being many, are one body in Christ, and everyone members one of another." So this ties back to how the chapter started out, presenting your body as a living sacrifice. Then it starts to talk about how a body is made up of many members, and how the body of Christ is made up of many members, and we all fulfill these different roles within the body of Christ. And so, how that relates back is when we look at the missionary or the pastor or the fill in the blank, anything that we sort of look up to. Ultimately, we have to realize that's one aspect in a body of Christ that can't exist in isolation.
Yeah.
It needs the rest as well. All of us have our place within the body of Christ. And I was just having this conversation with someone the other day. As an engineer, oftentimes when we use that term full-time Christian ministry, we equate that with someone who's on staff full-time at a church or in a mission field or something like that.
Right.
And we don't look at it the way the Bible presents it, in that if you're a Christian, if your faith has been placed in the saving work of Christ, you are in full-time Christian ministry by definition. Mm-hmm. And, as an engineer, I might not be on a pulpit in front of hundreds or thousands of people proclaiming the gospel, but I'm interacting with colleagues who have come from a secular education and have been trained to look at the world in a way that a pastor doesn't, to analyze the world in a way that a missionary doesn't, and or the way we commonly think of pastors and missionaries. And so, as a colleague in an engineering world, I'm a representative of Christ in that mission field. And so, God calls us to be good at our careers. He calls us to be people of integrity when we're working with other people. He calls us to be the kind of Christian that lends legitimacy to the gospel when that topic is shared with people. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm a lazy, good for nothing, just do the bare minimum in order to get a paycheck type person, mm-hmm. and then I start telling someone about God, what kind of example am I showing? Right? We're all part of this huge body of believers, and all of us have our roles. All of us have been called to our specific mission field. Mine might be engineering. Yours might be, the like your prayer friendship ministries. You've been called to people with disabilities. Someone may have been called to be a UPS delivery guy. Someone may, all of us have been called to something, and it's amazing how God works through His people, because we're often called to small mission fields where pastors and missionaries don't have access to. Mm-hmm. Either don't have access to, or that mission field views pastors and missionaries as somehow irrelevant. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal in the scientific community, right? We tend to look at people of faith as people who are going through life with a crutch. Well, they don't really know the kind of stuff that we know. And so they look at the universe around them and they sort of fill in those gaps with God instead of knowing what's really going on. That's the kind of attitude that a lot of the technical communities have. Yeah. And to be a member of that technical community and to be one that that is often invited into the room because there's an expertise that you bring to the table that other people don't, then in a way it lends legitimacy to the gospel that wouldn't have otherwise been there. Not to say that like God needs me to make his message more effective, but I think God prepares you for to be compatible with the mission field you've been sent to.
Right. Sure. Well, Josh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
When your colleagues see you and what you bring to the table, and then they realize that you are a Christian, perhaps it may give pause to somebody who otherwise wouldn't give legitimacy to Christianity. That's what you just said,
yeah.
I believe, but these are the words that I'm using, and that's huge, man. Mm-hmm. That's a huge mission field. That you have a key to a room that is locked to most of us.
Yeah.
And you can go in and you have the respect. He's a Christian. Maybe there is something. He's different than the other judgmental Christians. He didn't tell me I was going to hell while we were talking.
Yeah.
That's different than I'm used to.
I remember having lunch with one of the pastors here, and we were talking about this topic, and our church is obsessed with college football, and and really just sports in general. And it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek conversation, but the larger point that I was working towards was this. A lot of times our ministry focus is we're going to go speak to like the UWF baseball team,
yes.
or we're going to go, we're going to invite the Pensacola State College basketball team here for an event, or we're going to. It almost always revolves around sports.
Mm-hmm. All valid.
All valid. Totally valid. Totally valid. When we talk about when it comes times for graduation and we announce, all the graduates, we come up, and a lot of times it's like, well, this person's going into this major, this person's going into this major, this person's going into something related with sports. We get that. We understand that. That's cool. We'll talk about that for a few seconds.
Yes, right.
And then. The other majors that aren't necessarily sports related, like law or engineering or medicine or whatever, I don't want to say gets glossed over, but it just kind of gets mentioned in passing.
Right.
And the point I was making, and I was trying to be a little bit humorous about it, is like when you go onto a college campus, the percentage of that campus that's interested or involved in sports is very small. Because campuses tend to focus on sports in terms of their ability to generate income, or to generate a name for that college, because there's a lot of people that are interested in sports. But when it comes to the career paths that people pursue from that university, it's STEM fields. It's even the people that go on to play professional sports, they only do that for a little while. Yeah. They usually have a degree behind them that's like, this is how they think, this is how they operate, that kind of thing. And so there's a tremendous untapped mission field out there that a lot of churches aren't really pursuing, I think, because I don't know, for one reason or another, right? And that's always been sort of near and dear on my heart, is like the mission field of the STEM fields.
Yes,
because the STEM fields are geared towards how do you become analytical? How do you become the expert? How do you become the one that has all the answers? And and it's always based on scientific reasoning, mathematical abilities, all that kind of stuff. And we sort of educate the STEM fields away from the possibility of God, because we've become the experts on everything. And it's a tremendous untapped mission field. I think, to be a Christian in that space who is also a colleague, an intellectual colleague of theirs.
Yes, right.
But brings that element of faith into it as well, and is able to articulate that. Yeah. There's a tremendous gap in that.
Wow.
And so that's an example of this concept in Romans 12 of the body being made up of of multiple members,
Right.
and each of these members having its opportunity. I don't really have the ability to be effective in a mission field that's all sports, because I couldn't care less about sports,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And not only do I not really care about sports, but I don't really get it to begin with. I've never really gotten the appeal. I joke with people that I was a captain of my high school football team, but that's because I homeschooled.
Yeah.
But apart from that, that's a mission field that I wouldn't really be effective in. I'd walk into that room and be like, "Hey, nerd,"
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Go sports.
Right, go sports. Put the thing in the other thing.
That's right. More times than your opponent.
Right. Excuse me. Let me grab a little drink of coffee here.
Yeah, I can virtually see you getting sick.
Yes.
I can see you. Anyway, you're hanging in there, Josh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel fine, but
Yeah.
it's my voice and stuff that's rapidly going. Well, let's move forward though. So, the part that I wanted to get to that I mentioned in the hook comes after that, right? Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer, distributing to the necessity of the saints, given to hospitality. Bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much life as lieth within you, live peaceably with all men. And this is the verse I want to focus on. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. That little phrase there, for it is written, always carries with it a tremendous amount of, kind of like the Back to the Future thing, right? For it is written. It means somewhere in the Old Testament, the groundwork for this idea was laid. And it's an extremely fruitful endeavor to go back and look at that. And I see we have like 8 minutes before you have to go to your meeting. So let me try to break this down. So Deuteronomy 32, God is talking about Israel's relationship with the other people around them. And he says in verse 35, to me belongeth vengeance and recompense. So in other words, you're not the kind of people that are going to, when someone does something to you, you're not going to formulate within your mind a way of avenging that matter. Because vengeance is mine. I'm the one who repays. Ultimately, people sin against me. And so, because I'm the only one who's perfect, I'm the only one, kind of like throw the first stone. If those of you without sin, cast the first stone. God's the only one without sin. He's the only one who has the righteous ability to cast the first stone, to seek revenge, to do all that stuff. However, evil has to be punished, right? And in this time, there wasn't like an active police force or a governing body that was responsible for trying crimes and meting out punishment. There were other mechanisms in place that, here again, God had ordained, and one of them was called the Avenger of Blood. And the way the Avenger of Blood worked was it was attached to this idea of the near kinsman, where like if I have a brother and someone murders me, it falls on my nearest kinsman, my brother, to find that person and kill him as punishment for committing murder. He's not doing that out of hatred for that person, or else he'd be committing murder too. He's doing that out of a sense of justice that God has called him to as the near kinsman. I don't have a brother, so someone murders me, my cousin. It falls on him as the nearest kinsman to be that revenger of blood, to exact out that punishment. However, there are cases when you kill someone inadvertently. Like I wasn't laying in wait to take your life. It may have been, I accidentally dropped something and it, ricocheted and killed you or whatever. It was an accident. And so, but it was still, I took someone's life. So in those cases, in Deuteronomy here again, it put together a system to accommodate that. If I took someone's life inadvertently, that's still a sin against the image of God, because man's created in God's image. So I would run to a city of refuge, and these cities of refuge were set up within the nation of Israel as a place where someone who accidentally killed someone could run to for protection. Mm-hmm. And the Avenger of Blood would follow him, would get there, and the guy who killed would run into the city of refuge, run to the altar that was in there, put his hands on horns, and would proclaim his innocence. And then the trial would happen, where the people would look at the facts of each case and either rule, did he come to the city of refuge unworthily, like did he actually commit murder, or was it truly an accident? If it was truly an accident, he didn't commit murder, but he still killed someone. So in that case where he was innocent, he would be allowed to stay in that city of refuge, safe from the Avenger of Blood, but he couldn't leave the city of refuge. He could, if he did, he would be subject to the Avenger of Blood again, and the Avenger of Blood could come and kill him, all this stuff. But if he remained within the city gates, he was always safe from the Avenger of Blood. And so there was a time span where that changed, where once the acting high priest died, then everything was reset. He could go back to his home, and he wouldn't be subject to the Avenger of Blood anymore, because the high priest had died. He was able to leave that city of refuge safely and go back home. Well, in the New Testament, some clarification of that is given as to why that was set up. Because remember, everything in the Old Testament teaches us something about Christ. Mm-hmm. And Hebrews chapter 6 deals with this. It talks about by two immutable things in which I started in the middle of the sentence. 6:17. God, willing more abundantly to show unto the heirs of promise the immutability of his counsel, confirmed it by an oath, that by two immutable things in which it was impossible for God to lie, we might have a strong consolation, who have fled for refuge to lay hold upon the hope set before us, which hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, and which entereth into that within the veil, whether the forerunner is for us entered, even Jesus, made an high priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek. We talked about that guy a couple episodes ago. But what this is saying is it's bringing back the language of the cities of refuge, saying that in our sin, the wages of sin is death, which when compared to this rule, the murder that we've all committed is our own murder, because we've sinned, and the wages of that sin is death. And so it's something that we're born into. We did it inadvertently. We have that sin nature that is required to be punished by death. And so who is our city of refuge? Our city of refuge is Christ. Mm-hmm. But also, who is that high priest? Christ is that high priest. And when we run to that city of refuge, the Avenger of Blood is the law in this case, because the law demands our death. We've transgressed it. The law demands our death. It's the Avenger of Blood. But we get to run to our city of refuge, Christ, and we get to lay hold on that hope that he gives us of escaping the Avenger of death. Mainly because, like it says in Hebrews, the same person who is our city of refuge is also our high priest. He's the one that goes before the veil set between us and God. He's the one that intercedes on our behalf, and he's a high priest forever. He's a high priest that never dies. Mm-hmm. And so there never becomes a time where this no longer applies, where he is our city of refuge. He is our high priest. He is our eternal high priest. He's our eternal city of refuge. And so because of that analogy that was set up way back in Deuteronomy in the Old Testament, we have the ability to escape the punishment for sin. because our high priest took that for us.
Hallelujah. My goodness gracious.
It's so cool how it all works
is.
together.
Yeah.
And that's why I think here again, going back to the movie question, this is kind of like that, where it's like you're reading this in Hebrews. It's this huge, transformative, important thing that has to do with our salvation. And when you go back to the Old Testament, that little bitty phrase, it is written.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to where it's written, and you find out thousands of years earlier, the seeds of this idea had been planted and were developed for several thousand years, so that it laid an inescapable, unarguable foundation for Christ's ability to mitigate the sin, or to be the cure for the sin that we created.
For that, we are thankful.
Yes.
For everlasting.
Yep.
Josh, thanks, man. It is right at 10 o'clock. So,
Yeah, this is weird. You have a meeting.
I know. That's so unusual. It is. Chris, thanks for being here.
Yep.
Appreciate it. And Josh, hope you start feeling better, or hope you start sounding better, and hope you feel better than you sound all day. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, man. We'll see you.
Yep. Talk to you later.